Man, I can't believe it's back. A few years ago, I made a video called The Rise and Fall of Nashville Superspeedway. Long ago, NASCAR used to be king here in Nashville, although they used to run the Cup Series over to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. And then at one point, they closed that down in favor of a new racing facility, the Nashville Superspeedway, owned by Dover Motorsports. They only ever ran the trucks and Xfinity series there, but then, after 2011, they shut it down. Now, a few years later, it's suddenly back. I said in that video that being a Nashville resident, if they ever brought this track back, I would for sure be there for every race. Well, it's back. Join me as I give you an exclusive tour from DannyBTalks of Nashville Superspeedway. Here is what you can expect when you come visit the racetrack this Father's Day weekend for the inaugural Ally 400 with the NASCAR Cup Series in action. In addition, you will see the Xfinity Series and the Tennessee Education Lottery 250, as well as the Rackley Roofing 200 of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. It's going to be a great race weekend, and I look forward to seeing some of you guys there. But now, let's go give you the tour. We're going to start off in the infield. Alright guys, I'm outside the media center here at Nashville Superspeedway, so follow me inside. Let's go check out what Bob Pockers is going to be saying. So I'm inside the media center right now here at Nashville Superspeedway, and this is really cool. So here we're hoping that there's going to be a lot of media members, and well, while they might not always want to be inside the media center itself, we've got a big lounge with plenty of tables for these guys to hang out. They can plop their computers up there, they can do whatever they need to do, they can write articles, they can do their Twitter, social media and all that. Plenty of space in here for these guys to work comfortably. So in here, we have all of these areas for the media members. Rows there, rows there, rows there, rows there. Lots of plugins. There's going to be Wi-Fi set up in here, access to the internet. We've got TVs in here so they can keep up with what's happening in the race. And of course, our presenting sponsor of this year's inaugural race, the Ally 400, has their banner set up where we'll see a lot of these drivers hopefully giving their post-race interviews to the media. Check this out, guys. So, how they presented trophies in the past, obviously the famous guitar designed by Sam Bass in the past, they had the guitar mounted up in here on this custom Baldwin, how about that last name, piano, and on this piano, previous winners from I think both NASCAR and IndyCar have got their signatures on there. For example, here's Carl Edwards right there. He won here many times. We've got Austin Dillon, number 3, won the Truck Series race a few times here, I think. Lots of other names from previous winners on here. So as cool as the media center is, guys, there's still a lot more to check out here at Nashville Superspeedway. So let's head out and let's see what else there is to find. I'm in a really cool place here. If you are a Kyle Busch fan, you probably remember a pretty controversial thing that happened right in this spot in 2009. I'm in Victory Lane at Nashville Superspeedway. Now I do want to point out, check down here at the bottom. It's kind of a little cracked. This is still original paint from 2011. The plan is they are going to be repainting the entire Victory Lane right around June to make sure it's got a good fresh coat of paint on it. Everything will be good to go here in time for Victory Lane, which, look at this. We've already got it set up with the Ford and Nashville Superspeedway banners, so we are ready to see who will be the first 3 winners again here at Nashville Superspeedway this summer. This is really awesome. I haven't got to stand this close to any Victory Lane really in my entire time as a NASCAR fan. Here we go, guys. 60 stalls long here in the garage area. This is where they're going to be doing all of their work on the Cup cars and on the Xfinity cars and probably the trucks as well here at Nashville Superspeedway this summer. This is really interesting to see a garage this open up, no teams or anything. I've been in garages before for NASCAR, but never just seen it sitting dormant like this. It looks like there's plenty of room for them to do all their work in here. Standing outside here, this big open space right here, is actually a helipad. In the event that they do need to use a helicopter for any kind of use during the race weekend, they've got the space available. Now, let's head on over and check out the Care Center. Again, hopefully we don't have to see anyone need to use the care center. Obviously after a wreck, drivers will probably come over here, but hopefully don't need to use it that much. Now, there's still a lot more work to be done in here, but we do have the main desk right here. In there, we've got some more room for them to work in the clinic here for a care center. There is some patient rooms out for here, and essentially, I never really knew what to expect in a care center. I've never been inside a care center before. It's basically like a little doctor's office right here in the racetrack. Again, this is one of those places that hopefully doesn't have to be used that much during the race weekend, but as always, it's nice to have a really nice facility to use for a care center here. While this area sits dormant right now with only one truck sitting there, it's soon going to feature almost 100 RVs here for drivers and their families to stay during the race weekend. Now, it is important to note, this area here is just for NASCAR drivers and crews to stay during the race weekend. There will be camping available, but it will be located outside of the racing facility. So in this spot here, who knows what driver will soon be sleeping here when they come to race over here in Nashville. But in these areas, they've got everything set up. We've got electrical outlets over there and water hookups over here. So there's plenty of things available for these drivers to be set up during the race weekend. This looks like it's pretty well set up and going to be great camping for the drivers. Up over my left shoulder here, you see the scoring pylon. Interesting thing to point out here, that is still original from 2001 when the racetrack opened, and it's still operational. They've got to do a little bit to fix the top of it and get the new branding up there, but this thing will be good to go when they come racing here in June. So out here, this is going to be your area for parking, having fun, and most importantly, bring the tailgate down in your truck, let's have a cookout. So just imagine that my truck is hauling my camper. I don't have a camper, but imagine I'm hauling a camper. This would be one of the areas, one of the great areas you could bring your camper to. In fact, heck, if you got a ticket just to the Cup race on Sunday, if you got your camper here, get up on top of it, you got a great view of the back stretch, turns 3 and 4, and the front stretch to enjoy the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series races. Just to give you an idea, this is up on top of the bed of my pickup truck, and that is the view that you can see on top of my truck at Nashville Superspeedway. Imagine the view you would have up on top of your camper in this area. Yeah, go Alex Bowman, go! This Chevy Silverado handled the track really good, and I can't wait to see how my boy Alex Bowman does here on the Ally 400 driving the Ally Chevy Camaro. This track is amazing. You got to give it up to Nashville Superspeedway. I got to give it back to my guys over at the Chevy factory for building the Silverado together. Man, what an experience out here. Let's take you around and show you some more of the track. So one thing many people might be asking, have they already got safer barriers installed here at Nashville Superspeedway? They do. We're up here in the middle of turn 1 and 2 right now. And as you can see, it's already pre-lined. You've got 2 sections of wall, as well as the foam here in the middle. And these straps, looks like it helps keep everything in order. So this is how steep the banking is. It's about, I think we was told it's about 14 degrees of banking. It actually feels a lot steeper than that. But I think it's just because it's so tall, actually. Honestly, it's about like standing on a 2 to 3 story building right here as compared to the bottom. All right, so as cool as it is driving out here on Nashville Superspeedway, there is still more to show you guys. Let's head out of the tunnel. Let's go and show you guys the grandstands here at Nashville Superspeedway and what kind of experience you can get from the stands. Up over my shoulders, guys, this is the grandstands area, the permanent grandstands here at Nashville Superspeedway. Now, the grandstands actually hold 25,000 people, and they will be bringing in additional grandstands as they've been able to sell some more tickets for the races. However, I do want to note this. Although this area does hold 25,000 fans, you won't see 25,000 fans actually in the grandstands due to social distancing, of course. They will have to spread people out a little bit, which is why bringing in the additional grandstands helps them distance everybody out even better. Now, if you're a VIP, let's say you're a sponsor of a race car, sponsor of a track, well, the grandstands might not be for you. View up here from the booth, though, it might be for you. You see everything back behind you behind these glass panels. And if you're sitting up here in the booth and you just ain't sure who's in the lead or what's going on, you can refer to the pylon, or you can look up here. We got the TV set up so it'll have the race broadcast on. And when you're done socializing down in the viewing area, we've got plenty of areas here for the VIPs to get their beverages, alcoholic beverages, snacks, whatever it may be. And we've got private restrooms available. You know, it's amazing how good of a view this is here. Things that I never really knew living in Middle Tennessee. I didn't realize that there's more mountains in this area than I really thought there was. When you're up this high, you can see all the mountains in the area. But aside from that, from a spotter's perspective, this area up here on top of the roof of Nashville Superspeedway, if I'm a spotter, this is exactly where I want to be. I can see start-finish line there, all the way through turns 1 and 2, down the backstretch, coming up through turns 3 and 4, and not a single view is obstructed right here. Up here is the premium seating area. It's funny, other sporting events, premium seating would be like floor seats. Up here, for NASCAR, you want to see as much as possible. So these premium seatings, they've got them nice cup holders, actually sitting back in here, and you can see everything happening out on the racetrack. For a great view of the races here, this is definitely the way to go. Now, I've already seen my seats. It's not far from here, but getting up a little bit higher here at Nashville Superspeedway, that'll be most preferred for the races. Now that our track tour is done here at Nashville Superspeedway, there's one more thing to do. I want to talk to the man in charge. Let's go have a conversation with track president, Erik Moses. Hey guys, I hope you've enjoyed the tour of Nashville Superspeedway so far. Now, we want to talk to the main man here at Nashville Superspeedway, Erik Moses. Erik, thanks for having me here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. All right, so Erik, I'm a Nashville resident here, been here for a while now. Now, since 2018 I moved here. Nashville really didn't have much NASCAR stuff here since 2011 when the Superspeedway first kind of closed down for a little bit. And then since 2019, we've slowly been stepping up. Nashville got the NASCAR awards ceremony back in 2019 when champion Kyle Busch was crowned his championship. Now, we fast forward. We got through a little bit of the COVID thing that kind of took away the award ceremony last year from Nashville. Now it looks like that's coming back for 2021, plus the reopening of Nashville Superspeedway. So for you as a track president, how important is it to have this track, like a race here in Nashville, where they're going to award this season's champion?
It's like Motorsports City in Nashville now, you know. And you bring up a really good point. I mean, part of what expedited our reopening of this track that had been dormant for 10 years was the movement of Champions Week from Las Vegas to Nashville. And, you know, what I like to say is Nashville did what Nashville does, right? People vote with their feet here. They come out and they support large events here. It's an event town. People like to have a good time. They like to show a lot of hospitality to folks that have chosen this city for vacation or for large-scale events or activities. And that's what they did. We had 30,000+ people down on Broadway to see Burnouts on Broadway. And I think after that was over, given all the feedback from the drivers and the team owners and the NASCAR execs and our partners at Fox and at NBC, everyone started scratching their head and wondering, why the heck haven't the Cup drivers been here since 1984?
I know,
right? And it
was crazy. I'm a huge NASCAR fan, and it's like we have. Honestly, I look at the ratings, the demographics of where these viewers are coming in from. Nashville is one of the top markets, but I'm having to drive over 3 hours away just to watch the closest race to me. Yep.
And so I think that finally dawned on everyone, and that expedited conversations between NASCAR and Dover Motorsports, that owns the Dover International Speedway, otherwise known as the Monster Mile, and this Superspeedway in Nashville. And so it was determined that what we would do is move one of our 2 NASCAR weekends from Delaware out here to expedite the reopening of this track. And so that decision was made and announced to the world in June of 20 for a Cup Series race in June of 21. I got here in September, and we've been running hard ever since.
Because it's literally a race before the race over here.
It is indeed, yes, yeah. we have to finish first.
I think you guys will. You'll do just fine.
Thank you.
So, on top of NASCAR coming back, this is just a motorsports place in general now. We've got the Music City Grand Prix coming up in downtown Nashville this year. So, for you as track president of the last track the IndyCar came to back when they was racing at Nashville Superspeedway in the 2000s, what kind of relationship are you looking to foster with the folks over the Music City Grand Prix to, I don't know, possibly, make sure both venues thrive well in the future?
Yeah, I think the more motorsports, the better for the residents and visitors to Nashville. I'm a big believer in a rising tide raises all boats, and so we are getting known as a region and as a city here in Middle Tennessee that is hosting lots of motorsports. And so we've talked. I've met with the CEO of the Music City Grand Prix, and there are some ways that we're working to support each other. And I think we'll look for further ways to collaborate and to support each other. Our races are in June, theirs are in August, and so there's enough room in this city for everybody. People in this town are looking for things to do, interesting and new things to do, and both of us are providing that kind of option and opportunity.
Now, on top of IndyCar coming back to Nashville, there's a lot more motorsports in general coming here. Over at the downtown Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, there's been kind of a resurgence in racing over there. We've seen the ARCA series racing over there in the past. We've seen them do different events, like they hosted World of Outlaw Dirt Sprint Cars a couple of years ago. Now, this summer, it's going to be a big deal. The newly introduced Superstar Racing Experience, which actually features a few former NASCAR greats and a former Nashville Superspeedway winner, Michael Waltrip, in their racing field, plus current NASCAR superstar Hailie Deegan over in the Truck Series. Now, with that, they're going to have their end-of-the-year championship race over there, and now the people over at neighboring track owned by SMI, Bristol Motor Speedway, there's been talks that they may want to come in and maybe renovate that track over there. So for you as the president here at Nashville Superspeedway, although yes, they're owned by two different parent companies, one being Dover Motorsports, the other one being Speedway Motorsports, how do you see a possible relationship with that program in regards to your program over here? To, for me as a NASCAR fan, I'd love to see the scenario where one day maybe the spring Bristol date becomes the spring Nashville short track date. Summertime, we're back here on the big track in Nashville. What do you see that moving forward?
Well, I have been focused 100% on what we have to do out here in order to ensure that we bring America's best drivers to Middle Tennessee Father's Day weekend, and we give our fans what they expect and hopefully more. But look, more racing is great for fans like you and myself and others who are living in and around Middle Tennessee and frankly all around the country. And so, I wish those guys well. The folks at SMI have been in particular very kind and generous to me. Greg Walters down at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Brandon Hutchison down at Atlanta Motor Speedway, even Marcus Smith. All those guys have been, and Eddie Gossage in Texas, all those guys have been great to me. And so, I wish them nothing but the best. Jerry Caldwell is a great leader and leads the track up at Bristol. That track is historic, and all of the thinking and the racing on the Cup Series level that has happened in Nashville has happened at that track from about 58 to about 84. But we're focused on the present and the future, and we've got a track here that we spent quite a bit of money building out, and building it as a track that could host Cup Series drivers, right? And unable to do that for 10 years or really 20 years. Mm-hmm. And now we have that opportunity, and especially with a 4-year sanctioning agreement, at a minimum, we will have the Cup Series drivers here in the Ally 400 for 4 years. And my job and my team's job is to make certain that we have a Cup Series race and the best drivers in America at the Nashville Superspeedway indefinitely.
So mark my calendar. Make sure I'm available every Father's Day weekend for the next 4 years.
Just forever. Just every Father's Day weekend forever.
Yeah. 4 years to start, hopefully much longer than that.
Yes, indeed.
Eric, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit, and don't hold this against me. I was a fan of the Houston Roughnecks during the XFL. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's all right.
But to segue that, you were kind of heading up the project over in D.C.
Right.
So for that, I saw lots of good things from you over there, and you were even saying you were welcoming the fans into the stadiums for the first few games, weren't you?
We hosted the very first game of the XFL's season back in February of 2020. and it was magical, man. It was a really great experience. The former president of the Roughnecks, Brian Michael Cooper, is a dear friend of mine, and he did a great job down there. They were obviously leading the league, had the best record, and had some guys that ended up in the NFL. They were doing a great job in Houston, but we were making some noise in the nation's capital as well, and had a great fan experience and game day experience for people. Had some big stars on our team, and we were leading the Eastern Division and looking to compete for a championship before the pandemic snuffed out our entire season and our entire league.
In a lot of ways, the XFL and Nashville Superspeedway are kind of alike. One was a football league that was kind of supposed to rival the NFL to a sense, and it had been sat dormant for like almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. This track had kind of sat dormant for 10 years, aside from a few private testing sessions and a few speedway events every now and again. So how does your experience in trying to bring back the XFL help you in this project of trying to bring back Nashville Superspeedway?
That's a great question. I think in terms of the skill sets and the capabilities that you have to rely on when you're building something, I'm using those and employing those same attributes now, right? So my running joke is that then in the XFL and here, we're kind of building the plane while we're flying it. And that means you don't walk into a situation where there's a standard way of doing things or standard operating procedures. There's history and tradition of the way you do things, and you're sitting on tens of thousands of names in a database of fans who have previously bought tickets. All of that stuff is starting from scratch. And so having gone through that experience before and very recently, I'm not made anxious by that. I understand what to expect and what pieces we need to put in place in order to build our database, in order to introduce ourselves to the community at large, in order to find and develop and cultivate partnerships, in order to tell people who we are and what we're about. My job has been over the last 7, almost 8 months now to introduce our organization, our venue, our vision, and our values to this community at large. And that's something I did in the XFL. And so I pull on that experience every day. Building a world-class team of team members who are all rock stars in their own right and who are committed to this notion of we're going to build and create something together, right? We're not just walking in to caretake something that has been ongoing for decades and decades. We're coming in here to create something new and something that blends tradition along with creativity and innovation so that we have the right kind of offering for fans for years to come. And so that's exciting, I think, to everyone who has decided to join our team. It's exciting to me. It was the reason I decided to take on this opportunity to lead a team in order to do that. And I was certainly benefited by the XFL experience.
So, Erik, over the last few years especially, NASCAR has made a lot of moves to become a more open and diverse sport. Now, you actually kind of made your own little NASCAR history by becoming I read up the first African-American to be named track president of a NASCAR track. So I want to ask you, both as Erik Moses, businessman, Erik Moses, the man, what kind of, how does that feel to you to be able to hold that accolade?
It feels good. I didn't set out to make history when I accepted this opportunity and this challenge. I was looking for the right place and the right circumstance in which to use all of my skills, experience, know-how, connections, etc., to do a job and to do that job well. And this opportunity presented itself and seemed like the right thing for me. I found out towards the end of the kind of interview process that if I accepted the job, I would be the first person like myself to hold that title. And I thought, I had dual feelings. There was one that said, oh, I feel some sense of pride. But then there's another part of me that went, well, it's 2020. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Surely I'm not the first African American who was qualified enough to hold a position like this. And so in some ways it's a little bit disappointing that that history didn't get made until 2020. I don't look to do things to make history or anything like that. I will tell you that I take a lot of satisfaction in kind of what the symbolism of me in this role means to a lot of other people, mm-hmm. right? For me, it's a job. I have to do a good job. I'm not thinking about making history. I'm thinking about doing a great job for this company, for this city, for our team, and for this sport. But the emails, the text messages, the things, the meetings I've had with people who have said, seeing you in that role just really was inspiring to me and made me feel like I could do whatever I want. You know, I met a young man in October of 2020. I was going to the Roval race in Charlotte and had the opportunity to tour the NASCAR Hall of Fame with now my dear friend Winston Kelly, and I saw an African American family in the museum walking around, and I saw him and didn't think much of it, just kind of, oh, that's cool, okay. And we're walking around looking at the exhibits, and the father comes up to me about 30 minutes after I'm in there, and he says, "Hey, do you run the NASCAR track in Nashville?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, "Yeah, my son noticed you as soon as you walked in. He follows you on Instagram." And now this is very humbling because I have a mask covering half my face, right? And so he's like, "Well, can he take a picture with you?" I said, No, he has to take a picture with me. Like, I want to take a picture with him. So he comes over. His son's name is Harper Lucas. He's 13. The family's from Cleveland. Every year they go to that race and they stop off at the Hall of Fame first in order to see the Hall of Fame and experience it. Harper loves everything NASCAR. He loves Bubba. He loves the sport and wants to be an announcer when he's an adult. And so knowing that kid can see me doing this job and maybe that gives him further inspiration to pursue his NASCAR dreams personally is something that I find very humbling.
So essentially, at the end of the day, you're Erik Moses. You're bettering Erik Moses, your career, but you realize what kind of impact that makes for other people.
Yeah, and as a father, frankly, everything I do has some sort of symbolism for my sons, right? And for people in my life that have poured into me and helped me to get to where I am. And so I represent those people every single day in everything that I do. Mm-hmm. And so that there are other people who I know and don't know, again, who take some inspiration from this journey, this challenge, and me being the representative of a larger group of people, and not just African Americans, but people who have not traditionally had an opportunity before. Mm-hmm. In the same way that Haley Deegan and Danica and others who have kind of broken barriers and crashed through ceilings in our sport and in others have represented other groups, and we have to continue to do that. We want any and everybody who is interested in motorsports and interested in excitement and interested in seeing the best of the best compete to feel welcome in our sport. And if me being in this position helps anybody to feel more welcome in this sport and to think twice about, hey, maybe I ought to check out NASCAR and give it a chance, then that's a good thing.
Now, Erik, it's no secret for those who are watching my YouTube channel, I'm a big Alex Bowman fan. I've actually been rooting for him since he took over for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2018. So you got to understand how happy I was when I heard that Ally, his sponsor, is the new sponsor for the Ally 400 this year at Nashville Superspeedway. So I want to ask you this. What would that mean for you and your sponsor Ally if Alex Bowman could take the Ally Chevrolet to victory lane in the Ally 400 this summer?
I mean, it might be more than perfect. I certainly know the folks at Ally will be thrilled as they were when he won a couple weeks ago. He's a great driver. They're a fantastic partner to have. Already very invested, obviously, in our sport. We were thrilled to be able to extend our relationship that we already had with them in Dover to Nashville and to have them be our first entitlement partner. We have since then gotten all three of our races entitled, which is a pretty big deal for us and a great accomplishment in our first year. But Ally leading the way has meant a lot to us. And I think it sent a really big signal throughout the industry that Nashville is going to be a big deal, and having a big-time partner that's so well-respected out in the community like Ally has just been the perfect marriage.
All right, so Erik, a lot of fans like me, access has been fairly limited since the COVID-19 outbreak. We get that. We understand why it's like that. I haven't had full infield access to a race since the 2020 Daytona 500. 2021 Daytona 500 was kind of a limited kind of like capacity in the infield. Now, although it might not happen this year, and granted, a neighboring track, Atlanta Motor Speedway, just kind of made an announcement recently that they would have full capacity. So what's your hopes as the track president of what kind of access as far as maybe infield or even future grandstand capacity could we expect maybe in 2021 or 2022 especially? Well,
I think NASCAR, to their credit, is taking a very measured approach on this. Steve Phelps and the folks in leadership at NASCAR have steered this ship very well through this pandemic and through the social justice issues and the other things that have popped up over the last year and a half or so, and they're to be commended for that. We can't have the show stop because one track decides it wants to do whatever it wants to do. We need the drivers, we need the crew chiefs, we need the rest of the crew to be able to get to the next stop on the circuit. And so I think that is paramount to NASCAR. So I think as a result of that, you will continue to see restricted access in the infield. I think it may loosen up some as the season goes on, and it already has in some ways. So you may see, hey, if you're fully vaccinated and can prove that, then there are some infield privileges that certain folks will be able to get. But I don't think you'll see it go back to quote unquote normal probably before next season. That's just my guess. I don't have any inside knowledge or anything, but that's my guess. In terms of capacities and grandstands, and you understand this, I mean, NASCAR controls everything inside the track, and we control everything outside the track. And so, our hope and dare I say prayer is that any and everyone who wants to buy a ticket and wants to experience the best drivers in America coming to Nashville will have an opportunity to do that, and we will be able to accommodate them. As you know, we added an additional 15,000 temporary grandstands to our permanent grandstands in order to bring our capacity to nearly 40,000. For our Cup Series race, basically all of those tickets are gone. Oh, wow. And so we are working with our partners in government to make certain that we review our event protocols to get them comfortable with the way that we're going to operate out here. And we're hoping that we can have full grandstands.
That'd be really nice. Yeah. That's what we're kind of all hoping for, because we went to the Bristol dirt race, and that's awesome. As excited as me and her were, because we've been to so many races at Bristol now. We actually got engaged on the track at Bristol Motorsports. Right? So we were kind of sad to have to see that with, as far as the COVID audience goes, there's actually a pretty good sized crowd. Yeah. But it was more of a shame to not see that one as what it maybe could have been, the full Bristol experience. Me and her haven't personally seen Bristol full since the football game there a couple years ago. Oh
yeah. I mean, that place is so huge that they have an advantage that many of the tracks, including Dover, have over our track. I mean, we're the smallest in terms of capacity, I believe, on the circuit.
I think so.
Just under 25,000 in permanent grandstands, and so social distancing becomes even more difficult for us because it would be such a small capacity that we could accommodate without having to take on the additional expense of bringing in and constructing additional grandstands, right? Yeah. And so how do you balance that expense with the revenue opportunity to offset the expense and to make certain that people have a great experience? So, fingers crossed, we will see. And look, if Nashville continues to do what Nashville does and the rest of the NASCAR community and consistently turns out for our races here, maybe we'll add additional permanent grandstands. I think we want to be careful about that. And as a promoter, I can tell you I'd rather be sold out all the time with a smaller capacity than have a huge place that's half full all the time. And so scarcity of tickets with high demand is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. All right, so Erik, last thing here, you've done a great job answering all of my questions, and I really appreciate your time to talk with the DannyBTalks viewers, the people who are interested in what is Nashville Superspeedway going to be like. So what I want to invite you to do is, address everyone directly at the camera and just, as track president, what do you want them to know before they come to your track this summer?
We're going to show people how Nashville does NASCAR. And I think everyone will be very pleased with that. We have to be mindful of the pandemic, and so we are, and taking every precaution to keep drivers, crew, personnel, staff, fans, and others healthy and safe. But we're going to give you a sense of what's to come. And this race and this race weekend, which my sincere hope will become a race week full of activities, will continue to grow year over year. I've said to everybody from Steve Phelps all the way down to the man or woman on the street that my vision for this race weekend is that we create something that has the cultural impact of the Kentucky Derby, which is happening this weekend, or the Preakness or an event like that, where even if you're not a day-to-day fan, you don't want to miss that event, because it's a great event to see and be seen, to go to the parties and the other programming, and to have a fantastic time and see a great competition. And that's what we're going to bring to fans who come to Nashville Superspeedway.
Guys, my tickets are bought. I hope your tickets are bought. I'm ready to do some awesome tailgating on our Hitchfire grill hooks up to my truck. We've got the whole gang coming in, the entire NASCAR Rookie Podcast. We're going to be hanging out, having a great time this summer for Father's Day weekend with my dad. I'm going to watch the race with my dad on Father's Day weekend. We've got a great plan here at Nashville Superspeedway. You saw the rise and fall of Nashville Superspeedway in the past. This is the rise again of Nashville Superspeedway. It's back, and it intends to stay. Thanks for watching this video, and make sure you get your tickets and come out and see the races this summer. Thank you. Bye.